What's going on, y'all? Let's get a little philosophical today. I want to talk about a few of the habits that I've formed, acquired, picked up, I don't know, maintained in my real estate career as a real estate team owner that I think have made all the difference. And I'm just going to dive right in. And the first of which is basically just constant experimentation. Side note, I got a pretty cool new thing today. I'm going to kind of work on setting it up as I'm talking here. Before I was in real estate, I was a filmmaker, photographer, and musician for a very long time. So basically just in the arts. This is pretty exciting. And while I was in the arts, while I was playing music, I was always trying to kind of push the envelope. I was always trying to take a different approach. I would kind of look at what the status quo was, what the trends were, and I always just was getting kind of bored with it. Eventually, if a new idea comes along or something fresh, enough people start borrowing on it that you just start to see duplicates of the same thing over and over and over again. You see that in the pop culture world, you see that in reality TV, but you also see it in like the independent art space as well. This thing is pretty beefy, a little nicer than I thought it was about to be. What started as probably, ego-based, wanting to be different, wanting to be noticed, wanting to be, popular or whatever in the arts and music, has basically trickled down to this space, to the real estate space, to the business owner space, and has fundamentally made me look at things in a very similar way. In the art world, I noticed the value of being different. I noticed the value of just not being a carbon copy of something that came before me. I'll be honest, I don't even know what is in here right now. Ooh, all right. That's fun. And I've also learned to find a little bit of satisfaction in that pushing of the envelope, in that, being different. So first of all, being different has been very helpful, but that's not really the habit that has proven to be so helpful along this journey. It's more about continuously pushing the envelope, continuing to experiment with the ideas, with the things that I'm already working with sort of the platforms that I'm working on, and just trying to get better, more clever, maybe even easier sometimes. How can I do more efficiently, more creatively, and ultimately better? The one thing that I've learned helps with the experimentation process, helps with trying to figure out what's cool, what works, what doesn't work, is pretty simple, and it's ultimately just a volume play. Another bag within a bag. I don't want you to mistake constant experimentation for never sticking to one thing, because that's not at all what I'm trying to say. In fact, I think persistence and stick-to-itiveness, or whatever that word is probably as important or more important, sorry for all the rustling, than continuing to experiment. If you can just commit to an idea and continue to get better and better and better at it, I think it will eventually work. But with the experimentation phase, for one thing, it makes things more interesting, makes more fun. But also, I think it teaches you how to be more effective, how to be more of a critical thinker, and the like. This thing is crazy. Shout out to Godox, by the way. Pretty much every light I use in this studio space is made by Godox, and really good value, really nice lights, beautiful, light, and soft boxes as well. When it comes to experimentation, the thing that I found most valuable, kind of the best cheat code for experimentation, is quite simply just volume. Volume negates luck when it comes to creative endeavors. If you do enough of these things, you will eventually get pretty good at it. And if you get good at it and you're not going down the total wrong path, you'll probably find some success with it. I try to put out as much video content as just about any other agent I know, and I'm always trying to figure out ways to put out more and more of it. And I found that volume really helps me get better on camera. It helps me talk a little bit more casually, a little bit more authentically, and I feel very comfortable at this point talking on camera. But if you go back to my first videos, I was not very comfortable talking on camera. And keep in mind that before those videos, I had been trying to talk on camera in doing vlogs as a musician and photographer and the like. So even before the first video that you'll see on my To the Twin Cities channel, I had already had some practice. And I look back now and I'm like, oh yeah, I was pretty awkward. I was a little bit clunky with my words. And honestly, just didn't come across as fully authentic, or certainly not very confident. And I put out so many videos that just don't do well, right? That like, oh, I guess this isn't the right video for the audience. But then I'll even usually try a little bit more. If I'm thinking that maybe a video could be the right fit for my audience, but maybe just isn't the right fit for the people who are watching at that exact moment, right? Maybe it's a video that would be, helpful to a potential client of mine down the road, but just like isn't that exciting, isn't that clickable from a mass standpoint. Maybe somebody who's coming here to rent wouldn't really benefit from it. Maybe somebody who's coming to visit who just wants some vibe. That wouldn't be that helpful of a video to them. But the client, the person who I'm ultimately trying to be helpful to in a video, this might actually be helpful for. And I think the only way to really feel that out is just by putting a lot of stuff out, getting a lot of feedback from whatever it is that you're putting out. And the only way to get all that feedback, again, I'm gonna say it one more time, maybe more, volume. Personally, I think real estate is so much fun. I love owning a business. And if you're not thinking about it like a business, you gotta start. It's very important that you start thinking about it like a business. No, I'm just kidding. What if though, huh? And personally, I enjoy the process of growing a business. I enjoy the process of getting better and better at the business. And I also enjoy talking about how other people can help their business. That's why I do this channel, which, by the way, is a constant experimentation. It's part of the constant experimentation. I do a think tank where, myself and other business owners that I know or that I kind of know meet up and we talk about business. We talk about different things that can help our business, that can maybe shake some ideas loose if we're thinking about somebody else's business. And just this morning, I actually met with a friend of mine who is kind of working on a roofing sort of adjacent business. And personally, I tend to be of the school of thought that, you always learn, keep learning. But I also tend to believe that the best way to learn is by doing. And so I guess in a way, what I'm ultimately saying is, never stop learning, never stop pushing to be better at your craft. And so, this channel is kind of part of that, but it's also not directly related to my relocation business. It's a little more broad stroke related to real estate. But for the sake of example, we do have a channel that we started pretty recently. It's a podcast channel, and it's all about interviewing people who we've helped relocate to the Twin Cities, like the name, To the Twin Cities. And so we'll use this space as that. I'm always, experimenting with different lighting structures. Paul and I are always thinking about, could it sound better? We built some sound baffling for the studio because frankly, it could get pretty echoey at times. We put rugs down. We've added, softer elements to the floor to kind of control some of the reverb. And this whole office space that I have, you all have seen it on this channel, I'm sure. You will probably later on in this video. But this whole office space is basically, an experimentation in what happens if I just have a ton of different places to shoot. This has a very new electronic smell to it. What a weird smell. Why do we know what that smells like? But this, wow, that's super bright. This is another one of my experimentations. It's another example of, just things that I'm trying to do to get better at my craft, and it's a light. And I think maybe we bring it out. I mean, that's pretty cool. Let's bring it out there. Bag. The gig bags. Let's see here. Okay, Drum roll. All right, admittedly, this is a little bit hot, but pretty cool. And this setup right here is for a whole new channel that we've done, again, as a form of experimentation. I'm pretty confident it's gonna work as a resource to our clients. And it's all about schools in the Twin Cities. So far, I think we have something like 10 videos shot or posted or something. And we know that a lot of the people that we help have a hard time navigating the school system, not just in Minnesota, but pretty much everywhere. And so we're going to continue to grow the podcast channel and the schools in the Twin Cities channel, and of course, the main channel. And then of course, I've gone out to these other markets and I've started teams in those markets. That's a form of experimentation too. You're like, I'm pretty sure, I have a hypothesis that what I'm doing that's working really well in one market could work in another market. And then one thing that Paul and I are working on right now that admittedly we're not good at yet, but we are trying to get really good at it, is ads. We've been working on YouTube ads primarily. Again, we're kind of a video-based operation. And so we've been working on YouTube ads and really trying to push the envelope, trying to A/B test, trying to learn, trying to see what sticks, trying to learn what doesn't, and really just gathering a bunch of knowledge, a bunch of understanding about that process. But now talking about Paul, and Paul helping me with ads, and talking about Bradford, and Bradford helping me with a whole new channel, is a pretty smooth slide into the second habit that's been extremely valuable, but I do not have time tonight, so we're gonna pick this back up tomorrow. I spent the last 3.5 years the single best. Speaking of Bradford having his own channel, the Schools in the Twin Cities channel, that actually leads me perfectly into the second habit that's been the most helpful. This might be number one, frankly, like in degrees that it has helped my business, but this is leveraging people. And depending on where you're at in your business, there's a whole bunch of different ways to leverage people. The first thing that I did to leverage people was to hire a VA. Virtual assistant, which I don't think of them as VAs at this point, but in my head that's what I was doing back at the time, which was probably in May of 2020. By the way, before I had a single actual closing, I had a VA. I had a video editor specifically, and it's because I had things under contract and I was starting to get pretty busy, and I saw the writing on the wall that I needed help. If I wanted to keep pushing and keep doing that, I needed help because I needed some of my time back. And so I hired a virtual assistant. Again, I just think of them as remote employees at this point. The virtual assistant is kind of a strange, like, nomenclature, a strange thing to call them in my opinion. So I think of them as remote employees because that's what they are. They do certain things extremely well. They're so valuable to me. And yeah, just like, it's such a huge thing. I'll do a whole other video on this channel about how to find a good virtual assistant or remote employee, because I have a lot of thoughts on the matter. And again, it's been just paramount in helping me grow my business and freeing up some of my time, and also providing a cool life for those people. Another way that I've leveraged people is that I hired transaction coordinators. It's funny, I hired transaction coordinators way later than I hired my virtual assistant, my remote employee, or my editor. In real estate, transaction coordinators are very common, and so like most agents might have an idea of, oh, you could do that. You could just, hire a transaction coordinator, on a per file basis. And it hadn't occurred to me that was a huge sort of hinge point in my business. I suddenly had not just a transaction coordinator, but what felt like an assistant who could write up offers for me. And it saved me so much time, and it also improved my quality of life dramatically. I can very specifically remember a period in like probably mid-spring market of 2021 where it was crazy. It was going gangbusters. I was still a solo agent, and offers were really hard to get accepted at the time. And I wrote 10 offers in a weekend, and only one of them got accepted. And if I didn't have these transaction coordinators that were writing offers for me, that would have been a nightmare. That would have been so difficult to pull off, because not only was I writing these offers and submitting them, but I was also showing all these houses. I showed at least 10 houses, probably closer to 20 or 30 to write 10 offers. And again, leveraging people, transaction coordinators, the beauty of a transaction coordinator is that you only pay them, well, probably most transaction coordinators, you only pay them if you have a closing. That is a beautiful thing. The remote employees, they don't live in the US, and so you can pay them what is a much more affordable amount to you as a business owner, and they can have a really good life based on that income. And the transaction coordinator only gets paid if you have a successful closing. So the way you can leverage that to scale, both of those things are so extremely, extremely powerful. Then the next way that I leveraged people was by getting some agents and sort of starting a team. I went from solo agent to a team with 2 agents at the time. Basically 2 of my mentees joined on, and I basically was in a place where I needed help desperately. I remember talking to these 2 agents and saying, I need a hand so bad right now. I need somebody who can help me with showings. I need to sort of take some of the weight off my shoulders, and so I did. I started the team, and then now I've continued to grow the team and continue to leverage agents in that way. And hopefully it's not just a one-way street where I'm leveraging them. Hopefully they're getting a lot of value from being on the team as well. The beauty of starting a team where you have the leads, where you have clients coming in, is that you are really, really providing value to those people. It's not just, let me show you how to run your business, although probably another video to come on this. If you're just a rainmaker, then there can be frustrations that come along with that as well. But the reality is, having a true incentive, which is leads, which is clients that come in, who are all awesome, by the way, is a really valuable thing as you're starting a team and as you're sort of, trying to grow that way. Then the other way that I've leveraged people is basically the dude filming this right now, Paul Sweet Pea. He has been a tremendous help, probably coming up on 2 years. Yeah, 2 years working with me. And I mean, if you can find a dude like Paul, which good luck, jack of all trades, like truly, and also interested in the things that we're doing, interested in like learning and getting better at the the different things that we're doing, and having a natural skill set of things that have been helpful, but not necessarily what we want to be doing in the future. Like when we worked on the cabin, and he has done so much work on that cabin. That's all really cool, but it's not necessarily where we're headed. But nonetheless, he's a full-time employee. He lives in the country. He comes to work all the time. We are working together all the time. Truly like right-hand man style of employment. And not maybe just an assistant who sits and does paperwork. In fact, doesn't really do any paperwork, but that's not what I need him for. And that's not what his skill set would be. That would be a waste of Paul's skill set. So if you can find somebody who can fill the gap of a few things that you need done, that can be super helpful. But I really hired Paul with the intention of scaling, right? The idea was, I need to scale. I want to scale this up. And when we started to go to these other markets, like the first market we went to from the Twin Cities was Denver. I went to Denver alone. It was very boring, by the way. I mean, I got a lot done, but it was very boring. I felt very lonely, especially when I met my girlfriend, who I'm still with. But when I wanted to scale, I realized that going out to Denver and just doing everything on my own was a massive time restraint. It cost so much money to fly out there, to rent a car, to stay out there, that I couldn't get as much done in a single trip, right? And the trip was very expensive. And I realized, okay, if I can have another person involved in one way or another, I can shorten my trip by half, or I can just get twice as much done in the trip that I happen to be taking. And so that's what we did. We would travel to Denver, Salt Lake City, Nashville, and San Diego. And in about a week, we could get videos shot for probably somewhere around 3 to 4 months of just absolutely getting after it and putting out a video a week. I can't say enough good things about having Paul working with me. It has been just a massive upgrade to my business and to trying to grow things, even though we did shiny object syndrome and we took our eyes off the ball at times. But that was me, that wasn't Paul saying, oh, let's try this other thing. That was me saying, okay, I have this talent at my disposal, which was actually Paul's talent. At least 50% of it was Paul's talent, and it was like, okay, we have these abilities, we can do these things with our hands. Let's do this thing. And again, it took that to realize that wasn't necessarily the best use of our time. So now we're sort of back in the pocket, back to trying to do the things that are most valuable to the business. And Paul's skills and Paul's capabilities are not just like exciting to have around and like rewarding to work with, but just extremely valuable to me and to my business. And frankly, just makes my life easier, which, by the way, if you're in Paul's position, if you're in Paul's shoes where you want to be the right-hand man of somebody who's doing, whatever, Paul is really good at intuiting things to make my life easier. And I think it's on purpose. I'm quite positive it's on purpose, where he can see where, okay, that would sort of be an inconvenience to me or something like that. And there are just things where Paul will just take care of it. And I've also leveraged Paul to help be in charge of the remote employees as well a little bit. So Paul will be able to step in my stead on Slack or whatever as we're helping or talking to our remote employees. Paul will step in and will help me delegate certain ideas, certain concepts, certain tasks to the remote employees. And that kind of thing is so helpful, so not every moment of my life is taken up by, Slack or shooting a video or whatever. It helps me free up some time and free up some of my thought. Last thing to leverage, which I will be honest, I have not totally cracked. I'm working on cracking this, but is leveraging partners in your business, leveraging lenders, leveraging title, leveraging other potential, real estate agents or things like that to bring in more business into your business. Right now, again, I'm very much rainmaker. I bring in leads for not just myself and my team, but also for lenders, for my title company, and frankly, I don't get any leads from them. And so another goal of mine, another near-term goal, is to figure out ways to leverage those relationships to bring in clients, bring in more money to grow my team, and so forth. And I'm going to continue to try to think of ways to leverage people. I want to continue to try to grow my local employee setup, finding more of Paul's or maybe more specific version of Paul's, less jack of all trade type people, but also more and more of the remote employees as well. We actually now are at 3 currently, and it's proving to be extremely, extremely valuable. And I just love the help that we have. Just love the people that we get to work with. They're just like truly some of the best people, and it's such a pleasure. But that does tie into the last one, which is, this is all, I have this never-ending desire to grow this thing. And I want it to just be the coolest business that runs smoothly, and that we can do really cool things with. Again, probably keep the eye on the ball, right? Don't just think of it as an opportunity to do other things, but how can I do this one thing bigger? That leads quite nicely into the third habit that I've formed and worked on forming and trying to grow myself as a business owner, as a real estate agent. And that's all about trying to dream big, trying to teach myself how to think about a bigger life for myself, but also the people around me, relationships in my life, and also just people who I work with directly, whether that's agents on my team, people like Paul, the remote agents, Bradford, etc. Dreaming big is kind of a strange concept to a lot of people. It sounds cheesy to a lot of people. It sounds a little bit abstract at times. But I really believe that it's been one of the most valuable things that I've been doing since probably the year 2018, 2019, or something like that. At previous jobs that I had, I always wanted more for myself. I always wanted a cooler life. I've always wanted to do more, experience more, and make a bigger impact in what I'm doing and how I'm spending my time. Frankly, a lot of my background in music and film and photography has to do with I want to make people feel something. And so maybe that somewhat carries over into what I'm doing now, but more than anything, it's just I want to live a really cool life. I believe we only get one life, and so I want to live the coolest life possible. I believe we only get one life, and so I want to live the coolest life possible in this one life. That feel a little bit better? Feels a little bit better. I'll make whole videos on this topic as well, which is dreaming big. And frankly, every single year I set up time to sit either by myself with somebody else, so with my girlfriend, but then also I try to do these little dream big sessions with people around me. So Paul and I have done dream big sessions, and myself and an agent or two on my team have done them as well. But honestly, it's interesting. I find that some people are hesitant to do it. Some people are afraid of dreaming big because they believe that dreaming big will lead to disappointment. And in fairness, I think a lot of disappointment comes from unmet expectations. So if you're trying to dream big and that becomes an expectation, I think that's a little different than how I think about dreaming big. When I first started in real estate, I did a dream big that year. It was pretty much the beginning of the year of 2020 when I first started taking classes. And I sort of set some goals, set some things that I wanted to do, the last goal of which was get a license in real estate, and I had no idea what I wanted to do with it. But I did set some other, what felt like very far off goals right when I started real estate. They felt like, man, if I could accomplish this in 5 years, it would blow my mind. Make $200,000 a year, for example. I was coming from a place where I made $50,000 the previous year building sets. Now, I was probably working about half the year, but I would have worked more if I could have, but that's just how that industry and really my relationship to it was. I had one employer who I was getting pretty much all my business through because I knew that that wasn't the life that I wanted. I knew that that wasn't, a long-term goal for me. It was just a job that at times was cool. By the end of it, I was so tired of it. And so I'm coming out of this place where I was making $50K a year, and I was thinking, what would be truly life-changing, mind-blowing money to make in a year? And I settled on $200,000. And I thought, if I could be making $200,000 in 5 years, that would be such an incredible achievement. And in my second year in real estate, I surpassed that by a lot. And if I knew then what I know now, that I would be doing 70, 80 transactions in a year, pushing over $30 million in transaction sales, if I knew that I would be able to do that, that would have absolutely rocked my world. And then I probably wouldn't have set $200,000 as what felt like a dream big goal. 1 second, I'm realizing that I think I'm a little bit low in the frame, so let's see. I like that a little bit better. And now if it wasn't for dreaming big, if it wasn't for shooting for unbelievably high standards, I think I would be pretty stagnant where I am right now. Again, 200 felt like a crazy accomplishment, and now I'm well past that. So then how do you continue to reach higher? I believe that dreaming big is the answer to that. The reality is, I like to play the game, right? I like what I do here. I like owning a business, I like running a business, and I like trying to grow that business. It's extremely satisfying to me, and I think, the people out there who feel that way, that's who I want to work with. People who want to retire. That sign back there, it's a little blurry because I got this nice camera that has a real nice blurry background. That says never retire. This tattoo says never retire. Those are words I live by, and it doesn't have to do specifically with retiring from work. It has to do with just don't give up, don't stop, and just continue to get after it. So when I'm old and well past retirement age, will I not be running a business anymore? Possibly. But will I retire? No, I believe I won't. I believe I will continue to try to grow and learn and adapt to what is probably going to be a pretty wild world, however many years from now. Dreaming big has led not just to a cool business that's doing well and sort of like financial freedom to some degree, financial comfort and a cushion that I really never could have imagined. Dreaming big has led to me being able to do things in my life that I really didn't think I'd be able to do, and taking people along for that ride. In the past couple years, I've gone to Iceland twice, which has been so cool. I love Iceland. I went to Italy, I went to Ireland, I went to Montana and Banff and sort of like the northern Rocky Mountain range. I've traveled to Denver, San Diego, Salt Lake City, Nashville, multiple times, and it's all about the experiences. I've been able to bring my girlfriend along to these unbelievable places. I've been able to travel the country with Paul, and we've had so many cool experiences and memories formed by doing that, but also this like unbelievable reference library for life on the whole. So many things that I can refer back to as maybe things that didn't feel like learning experiences, but definitely were learning experiences. And now again, I could probably just call it, right? I could probably be like, look, if I can just keep this up, that's cool. And now I could probably just call it, right? I could probably say, let's try to just keep this going, right? Let's try to keep in this maintenance mode of keeping this going, because honestly, it is cool and I'm grateful for everything, but I tend to believe that there really is no maintenance mode, right? I believe that either you're pushing for more, especially in real estate, I think, you're pushing for more market share, you're pushing for a smoother running business, or you're slowly dying. And that slow death, that's where that comes from. That's where that comes from. Never retire doesn't just mean don't quit your job, right? Never retire means never stop getting after it. And I think so many people have one huge dream that they're going after. And sometimes that dream isn't really that huge compared to what other people have accomplished, but it feels like a huge dream. And then when you arrive at the dream that you've dreamed about for so long, you're like a dog who catches a car. Once you get there, you don't know what to do with it. And so every year I dream big again. Every year I accomplish things that I didn't know that I would accomplish the year previously. And then I dream big again to try to imagine a future that is so beyond where I'm at and that has an ever-changing evolution of cooler and cooler things, more interesting lifestyles that adapt to the person that I am, because I'm always changing, I'm always learning, I'm always realizing that certain things that I thought would be maybe a nice destination aren't really what I want. And dreaming big is what's helped me realize that. Dreaming big is what keeps me hungry and keeps me pushing for more. All right, it's been a long day. I will see you later. Take it easy, y'all.